Yo, yo, do I see that icon popping up? I do. Hopefully the audio of the stream isn't too loud, but figured why not go live for the granddaddy of all looter shooters, you know? Funniest thing is that 10 minutes ago, I forgot this stream was even happening, and I did not intend on doing anything. But here we are. Hopefully everybody files in before, oh, here we go, about to get it started. I'm right on time. Captured on PS5 Pro, of course. I mean, of course they would do that, considering PlayStation is the one that's doing the marketing.
What use is a killer? A brute. A rule-breaking, loot-taking, running and gunning natural disaster. You are in a world.
Uh-oh, they're gonna say DEI. They see a black woman.
Take that personally.
Oh, that's interesting. Akira slide, okay.
Has been enacted. Violators will be shot on sight.
Heyo, I'm Randy Pitchford, founder of
Oh,
Gearbox
gosh.
Entertainment. Today, we're giving you our deepest look yet at Borderlands 4. All the excitement, loot, and gnarly carnage all running on PlayStation 5 Pro.
Since creating the looter-shooter genre nearly 16 years ago, we've continued to refine the formula.
I like how they threw that in there. Since creating the genre, you know, as a reminder for you guys that didn't realize, we started all this.
Movement, abilities, bigger and badder enemies, and a brand new planet, all in service of making you feel like a total badass.
It's the perfect entry point.
Was
for
that
new
a grappling
players
hook?
With incredible new places and a great story. And for our longtime Borderlands fans, we're throwing back to our more grounded tone while pushing gameplay ahead further than ever before. This is the culmination of years
Further
of
than
hard
ever
work
before
by
for
teammates
Borderlands
across
or
Gearbox Studios.
in general,
So enough
'cause,
talk. Let's get it. This is Borderlands 4.
Borderlands
It looks like they're definitely interested in making the combat more vertical, because the use of a grappling hook, a lot of the slide mechanics were added in Borderlands 3.
Powerful abilities called action skills.
Oh, there we got a siren.
Today I'm playing as Vex, our new siren. She wields supernatural phase energy to devastating effect. She can use that energy to empower herself, or channel it to conjure deadly minions that fight alongside her.
And because everything's better in co-op, I'm joining as Rafa, a former TDR soldier who wears an experimental exosuit. He can digistruct an arsenal of weapons, like the razor-sharp arc knives.
These are two of our 4 new vault hunters that you can play at launch.
Borderlands 4 takes place on Kairos, an all-new planet steeped in conflict. For thousands of years, the Timekeeper kept the planet hidden, controlling its inhabitants with bolts, cybernetic implants fused to their spines. Anyone who stepped out of line was brutally crushed by his army of synthetic soldiers known as the Order.
Okay. I mean, this is all well and good, but you need to have, Borderlands needs to have a antagonist, a person. Corporations are always bad, but like they need a face to the corporation to really kind of make it work for this IP.
The results were devastating. A planet-wide cataclysmic event that disrupted the Timekeeper's perfect order.
Now people all across Kairos have started rising up, some even ripping out their bolts, and chunks of their brain along with it.
Here it comes!
That's the situation our Vault Hunters have crash-landed into. A planet ready to explode, and you're the spark. As you explore, you'll meet a cast of incredible characters.
I don't know if it's just me or not, but I kind of feel like
Zane and Moxie.
I mean, the game isn't out yet, but like animations seem
And as always, Claptrap
just not on par with today's standards, I guess.
Last but not least is Echo 4. This helpful drone follows you everywhere, hacking order tech, scanning the environment, and helping guide you to objectives.
I don't know why that just reminded me of the drone from Gears 5, but okay.
Thanks to our improved lobby system, it's easier than ever to join up with your friends on the fly. And with full crossplay at launch, you can play with your friends on any platform.
Today, we're venturing into Terminus Range, a frigid, mountainous region.
This is just one of the 4 zones on Kairos that you can seamlessly explore. There's next to no loading time, just endless looting and shooting mayhem.
For our current mission, we need to break into a secret black site located deep in the mountains. One of the Timekeeper's generals, Vile Lichter, has been conducting grotesque experiments on locals.
Meet with Amara. Amara was the siren from Borderlands 3, so they're continuing the trend of having the previous game's Vault Hunters be side characters, non-playable NPC side characters in the next one. What I really want to see is the build trees. Like, I need to see what we're working with as far as builds go. Because the guns are always dope, but it's the synergy of guns, skill trees, and gear that kind of make it like really like a unique experience you can't get anywhere else.
Here we've come across a silo, one of several new activities in Borderlands 4.
You'll naturally discover short gameplay experiences like this all across Kairos. There's no need to pick up a mission first. These are auto-granted and tracked on your HUD.
This seems very open world-ish.
Decommission order tech that you can hijack for the Crimson Resistance.
With the help of Echo 4, we'll hack into their network and release the communications balloon.
Is this going to be a Ubisoft tower that reveals the other things to do in the area? I hope not.
Now that we're in charge, we can fast travel to the silo. And as a bonus, it's revealed the approximate location of a vault key fragment. We can collect these fragments to unlock
it is
hidden
kind of
vault,
like that.
a high-level dungeon with challenging combat and serious loot.
I mean, like, that's a little disappointing, but I'm not going to knock it if it's executed well. Then it is what it is. But going into a less
Another nice thing about silos
linear
is you can zip line up and take off.
campaign, kind of interesting.
And if that's
This
not
is
fast enough for
definitely
you,
overworld.
you can always pull out your personal vehicle, the Digirunner. Just hop on, hit boost, and get rolling.
You can customize the body, paint job, and even how it handles.
And because this is Borderlands, you best believe it has guns.
As you traverse, you'll encounter a host of dynamic events. From order patrols to world bosses, there's always something to shoot and loot.
Another question I have is if this is going to be... Is the entire game only going to take place on this planet? Because like the first 2 Borderlands games only take place on Pandora, and then the third one went all over the daggone galaxy.
Chaining our new traversal abilities together makes combat more dynamic than ever. You can dash in and out of melee attacks, dodge projectiles, or quickly reposition to gain an advantage.
I mean, the gunplay looks all right. It looks quick. ADSing looks tight. Again, I mean, I always say this about gunplay. It's about feel. What's up, Miko? So this map feels gigantic. Yeah, it looks like it's a massive open world, which I'm hoping there is a good mix and balance of like story-based things that you need to do and kind of keep the story going that way instead of just, hey, look, here's a massive map, have at it. What's up, Brian Eastman? How's it going? Because if it's the latter, just a massive map with, you know, things to do with you know, like that's not...
And the next thing you know, you're having full conversations with animals.
I was about to say that's not Borderlands, but like, there's Amara. I don't want to stifle creativity because, you know, like I agree with the issues with the previous Borderlands game, where Borderlands 3, where it felt it was too much like Borderlands 2, but not in the best way, where like the story of Borderlands 2 it was great, but not so great in 3. You know, they didn't really exceed Borderlands 2 in any way but gunplay. And so the gunplay here looks all right. You know, I gotta play it myself to see for sure. But you know, when I see other people play a game,
as loot is always instanced for each player.
I always have low expectations. so this looks all right. And the abilities, I kind of want to see what the siren. Oh, this is the siren. My bad. The siren looks good. I mean, I kind of want to see what the soldier looks like when he fights. Actually, I think they showed that previously in the previous firefight they had. This monster is called Tim.
Everyone else heard the talking creep, right?
Tim feels like the product of Lictor's twisted mind. Another of his experiments. If he's doing this to creeps, I shudder to think what he's doing to Lilith. We need to get inside. That air vent. Let's check it out.
Oh, so they're confirming Lilith is still alive, even though we kind of figured, everyone kind of figured that was the case.
Not me, obviously. Hermes.
I like the detail in the environment, though. You know, people always act like cel-shaded visuals can't be detailed, but it's really just depending on like the artist. Miko said it's been a while since I played Borderlands, but I don't know, the jumping feels very floaty. It does. If you ever played the pre-sequel had a jetpack, and it took place on the moon, so it was on a moon, not the moon, like not Earth's moon, but it would be kind of floaty.
Fully auto rippers. and the reliable, easy-to-use Daedalus, which can use multiple ammo types.
But that's just the start.
They're definitely trying
We've introduced some all-new
to
licensed
advance
parts.
movement.
This allows for behaviors and abilities from multiple manufacturers to spawn in a single weapon. For instance, this flat-off assault rifle uses a cord mag.
I pause because what they're saying now is funny because we used to do this when we used to make our own weapons in Borderlands 2.
The higher the rarity, the more parts that can randomly spawn, creating wilder and wilder loot.
And that's before.
This is a
even
good
getting
idea
into
though.
alt-fire
They're
modes,
incorporating what
underbarrels,
people used to
and
do
elemental
on their
damage.
own.
The possibilities are truly endless.
To support playing with your favorite manufacturer, we've added enhancements. This new type of gear replaces artifacts and provides bonuses to specific manufacturers. Take my current enhancement. It adds a kill bonus to all guns with Daedalus parts, along with more reload speed and critical damage. This lets you min-max your build around your favorite manufacturer, immediately turning just okay guns into amazing weapons.
Finally, we've heard your feedback, and we've overhauled our drop rates and loot across the game. We've worked hard to make sure all our gear feels better than ever, while also making rarity matter again. This makes for our most satisfying loot chase ever. And at the top of everything are legendaries. These have always had unique effects that you won't find on any other piece of gear. But in Borderlands 3, they drop too often. This not only devalued legendaries, it made everything feel less valuable. In our new system, not only do all guns feel great, but now legendaries will truly be special events. We've added the magic back to our loot chase, and we know you'll love grinding all that great gear on Kairos.
But let's get back to combat so I can show you my
I'm somewhat okay. I need to see how that is implemented and played out, because I agree that in Borderlands 3 the drop rate for legendaries was too generous, too frequent, but the drop rate for legendaries in Borderlands 2 was not acceptable, and so it seemed like they did an overcorrection that went too far in the wrong direction. And I hope that isn't the case here. When they say that we are returning back to making legendaries rare. Oh, here we go with skill trees.
Finding abilities with devastating effects. Up until now,
Just real quick, I hope when they go back to, like, there's a balancing here. Don't go back to Borderlands 2 rarity, but give us a happy balance between 2 and 3, and I think that'll be
giving
fine.
you more build freedom than ever before. On top of passive skills, you can further customize action skills with augments and capstones. These are socketed enhancements that add new behaviors and functions to your action skill.
Different builds completely change how combat plays out, resulting in near endless freedom to experiment. You can swap unlock augments or capstones on the fly, or completely respec your skill trees at hubs around Kairos.
This gives us a chance to talk about traits. Each Vault Hunter has a unique passive ability called a trait. For Vex, her action skills attune to the element of her equipped weapon. So by swapping guns, I can change Trouble's damage from kinetic to shock, fire, or any other element
Nice. I like that.
Also, you can pet the cat.
Dead end. Or is it?
Zach says, I only played 1 and 2, but I thought they were notorious for killing off the old protagonists. Hey, Zach, well, first off, glad to see you, Zach. You know, I hope you enjoy the stream. They wouldn't kill all the protagonists off. They will always kill one. So in Borderlands 2, they killed one of the Vault Hunters from Borderlands 1. And then in Borderlands pre-sequel, they technically, the majority of them had already died at some point in Borderlands 2. In Borderlands 3, they went back to doing what they did with Borderlands 2, where they killed one of the Borderlands 2 Vault Hunters. So if they keep to that same kind of storytelling cadence, which I hope they change it up, because, like, I mean, no one should be expecting a certain story beat to happen. But like, if they do keep to that, one of the Borderlands 3 Vault Hunters will die.
Health and other buffs,
You know.
like temporarily boosting my elemental damage, rate of fire, or movement speed.
I'm almost afraid to ask what's in the tube.
Look at these guys.
I did notice that they finally changed the way the UI looks, which was another complaint that them sticking to Borderlands 2 UI was a bit dated.
Grind for loot, we've added full mission and boss replay. That's right. No more
Nice,
save loading to
okay.
run bosses. Now you can return to the arena
That's
and use
smart.
Moxie's big encore machine to spawn another run.
Now, because they did that, because they're allowing boss replay, I feel like the drop rates are going to be Borderlands 2 drop rates. Because they didn't have that in Borderlands 2. So people would go join other people in matches hoping they would do certain content that would give them the opportunity to get their hands on particular legendary loot that was only available by defeating certain bosses. Them allowing you to replay a boss.
That's enough of that for now.
Oh, that's cool.
But we look forward to showing you much more this June at our first hands-on gameplay event.
Oh, this is already over.
And from everyone at Gearbox, thank you for joining us.
I mean, I thought they were supposed to be 30 minutes. This is 20 minutes. Alrighty. Okay. What am I doing here? Alright. Okay, how do I feel about that? I like some things. I like what I'm hearing about some of that stuff. Yeah, Randy's shirts are awful. And his hair is ridiculous. That was terrible. That was terrible. But unfortunately, you can't, they won't separate Gearbox and Borderlands from Randy, so you're stuck with them. That's it though. Let's see. So what do we have here? We have open world Borderlands. It looks like it's all going to be on one planet now. It's no longer, so they went back from Borderlands 3 where you were going to different solar systems, like a dozen different planets. They're refocusing things back down to just one planet, but making that planet open world. So considering that this is not a cross-gen last-gen game at all, that like that one map potentially could be bigger than all the hub worlds they had in Borderlands 3. Miko says every one of his games sells like crazy, even with the reception. I guess they see no reason to remove him. Yeah, I mean, but he's just so slimy. He just oozes used car salesman, kind of energy, and a lot of the talk around him and the things that he's done in the past just rubs me the wrong way. Like I'm not going to not enjoy the games because I mean there are hundreds of developers that work on those games and they're all doing the very best they can, and they got nothing to do with his behavior. So why should they be penalized for him? But I definitely could do without him, so to speak. But no, I don't know how I feel about open world Borderlands, because there's always the opportunity to kind of do it badly. And so I guess a lot of what I'm going to say is about making sure that you execute on the goals that you're trying to do in your game design. Because if you do it well, no one's really going to complain. But if you do it poorly, then people are going to be like, why'd you go in this direction? Why did you go open world when the game hasn't been that before? When you've given very explicit story missions that you need to do with some side missions available, but everything is very much sectioned off. There isn't just, you could go explore if you want, in the smaller like arenas that you have, but there isn't much there, so you might as well just go do what the game wants you to do, kind of thing. And there's a way to implement this where you do open world, and there's like, you know, you got towers, so to speak, Ubisoft towers, as everyone says them. You activate them. It then reveals a bunch of activities you can do in the area, and then you just go from there. And that at this point, I would say in the year 2025, gets a mixed reception. And the reason why I say that is because people are tired of it. Especially if those activities are the same activities over and over and over again. That's the aspect of the Ubisoft game design that people don't like and would rather not have anymore. And so if the activities that you do when you're activated, I forgot what they called their version of towers, but whatever, you go to a depot or whatever, you turn it on with the little drone that you got, and if those activities are unique for the area, that will kind of break up the mundane feeling of just doing the same repetitive task over and over again. But it also, you need to make sure that those are not as frequent of the kind of things that people are doing when they're playing the game. Like, it's good to kind of have that as filler side content. It's not good when that is like the bulk of the content in the game. So that's a wait and see as far as I'm concerned. Miko says the games are good, just need to get their old lead writer back. Yeah, you know, he works for the last time. Whoops, I just hit my mic. The last time I heard of what Anthony Birch was doing, he was one of the writers on the narrative team for God of War Ragnarok. Now, I don't know if he's still at Sony Santa Monica or not. A lot of video game writers tend to move around a lot. They tend to go from studio to studio. It used to be you would get one writer that would stick to one studio indefinitely, especially if they were really good. And then, of course, they would have teams working with them. So it's not like every bit of writing is just theirs, but you would get kind of an identity from the kind of games that they would make based upon the writing style that they have. A great example of that is Remedy and Sam Lake. You know the kind of game you're getting based upon the fact that who their lead narrative writer is and how Sam Lake writes his content. To go back to Borderlands really took a hit when Anthony Birch left after, I think he may have did like a little bit of work on Borderlands pre-sequel that came out after Borderlands 2, but Borderlands 2 really solidified that IP in the gaming industry, and a lot of it had to do with the work that Anthony Birch did on the writing. And kind of now you're looking at it, and you know they have not been able, writing wise, to be able to nail that, to capture the same very unique feeling of a Borderlands game where the humor is inappropriate but funny, you know, really out of bounds but hilarious. They haven't been able to capture that again. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands couldn't do it. The new Tales from the Borderlands couldn't do it. Borderlands 3 couldn't do it. And so at this time, I really am in a prove it mode when it comes to them in writing. I do not have high expectations for them and how they write due to them striking out on that 3 times in a row. So they're really going to have to show me that they can still do that. I'm definitely skeptical. Guns wise, I like what I saw. I thought gun movement looked good. ADS looked good. I think, and it's always kind of difficult to analyze that off of gameplay that you're seeing someone else play in a live stream. You don't know how the settings are tuned as far as vertical and horizontal sensitivity. You don't know how the dead zones are set. You don't quite know how tight the ADS is until you really play it yourself. But from what I saw, it looked good. I see the verticality they're adding more in now, where they want you to kind of not just be running on the ground, but going vertical a lot more. That and I think, who was it said that was float? It was floaty. Miko, you said it looked floaty to you. I wonder if that's by design. I just need to kind of see how it plays out, and I would love to. I doubt this, but after playing Expedition 33, different kind of game, I know. But like, I would love to kind of have these Vault Hunters all, they all have different skill trees, and therefore they all play differently, which has always been a plus. But I would love for the gunplay itself to be different between the four of them. That would be a nice little change of pace as well. What else here? Yeah, they changed the UI of it, which is good. That needed to happen. What they showed seemed very basic, but hey, I'll take basic over the map that they showed us before. Actually, they didn't show us a map, I don't believe. Or maybe no, they did show us a map, but it was one of those typical open world maps where you have to actually unveil the map, like how the map looks. You can't tell because if you haven't been there yet, it's all dark. So you got to go there and actually open those things up. But the UI looks fine. The skill trees, I that's another wait and see. I think that they took a step back with skill trees in 3 compared to 2. Really kind of compared to all the previous ones, really. But they still do better with those in their kind of format where they have each character has 3 trees that are vastly different than one another, and then you can kind of combine and mix and match things to create your own unique builds. Like, they do that better than anyone else. But that said, I need to see more before I can really see whether it's going to be good or not. Of course, I'll be playing Frankenstein out here with some of my builds. But Zach says, dare I say, the open world felt to me a little like Halo Infinite. Interesting. Halo Infinite had hub worlds. And in all these open world environments, like Halo Infinite would have those what do they call them, forward stations, I think. They were forward stations, and then you would go to the forward station, you would take it over, and then you would kind of use your forward operating bases. And then you would use those to then kind of clear the area around you, which is typical open world, Ubisoft kind of format. Yeah, I mean, it's very similar. I just kind of hope that it don't play like Halo Infinite, which is not a knock against Halo Infinite. It's just that that's Halo and this is Borderlands. They should play differently. Bladex says, I just got back from the gym. What did I miss? You missed about 20 minutes of gameplay and they call it a deep dive. I wouldn't call it that deep. It's kind of a shallow dive into the gameplay for Borderlands 4. And also kind of interesting, they did that now, because like, you did the state of play for a game that comes out September 12th on April 30th. This is weird to do that now. Maybe they got a huge schedule of stuff that they want to get into, and they couldn't find the time to do this at any other time, which I would say that still seems weird to me, considering it shouldn't really it shouldn't be any problem to just upload that at a more appropriate time, like August, closer to release date. There was even the CEO of Take-Two, Strauss Zelnick, said this recently about GTA 6. he said that you haven't really heard or seen anything for a long time about the game because we like to engage in the kind of marketing where we kind of bombard you with these things closer to launch than, you know, sprinkling them out over the course of, you know, the numerous years before it comes out. And why do they have that philosophy with GTA 6 but not Borderlands 4? Maybe Randy Pitchford, even though Gearbox is now owned by Take-Two, maybe Randy has full creative control and marketing control and he does it differently. I don't know, but I think that's odd. Some story things here. So it looks like, well, let me do, two things I want to talk about and then I'll wrap things up. Story wise, I hope it's better, but I'm again a little skeptical. It looks like, I mean, they didn't bury the lead here. Lilith is alive, you know. Blade says the GTA 6 trailer coming soon. I'm a inside. You're an insider. Oh, funny. So if you play Borderlands 3 at the end, you know, they try to make it seem like Lilith sacrificed herself to save everyone, and like no one bought it. So clearly they showed from what they showed that Lilith is alive. They showed Amara, which was fairly not a big shocker that she's there. They always have the previous, as I said earlier, they always have the previous Vault hunters for the previous game featured in the next game as non-playable side characters. So that wasn't a shocker either. They didn't show a protagonist. They showed a corporation that it will be kind of like your rival, but that it can't just be that. Like, you need to have a face. You need to have a villain for this IP to work. And I'll go back to like Borderlands 1. You know, the main campaign was all right, but what really made it work was when you had like General Knox, and his dialogue was so good. When you had like those kind of characters, I forgot the name of the other soldier that ended up being one of your characters in pre-sequel. I forgot her name, but like she wasn't really like a villain, but she was kind of like an anti-villain the anti-hero that you kind of went up against, like in the one of the bigger DLCs. And so you got Handsome Jack that everyone knows. He's fantastic. You gotta have good villains, and this IP, when it's at its best, it's because there are awesome villains there that really carry the story, really say lines that people will never forget, that kind of stuff. And so I wonder if they're just, you know, it could very well be they're trying to hold that off until a later date, or but I think if you got a villain that's fantastic, that's really good, you show them off now. You know, you kind of give people a taste of what to look forward to, because that is what has really sold your IP, you know, in the future. So let me show some. I just got some gameplay up. That I wouldn't say that's maybe I shouldn't show that. This isn't really a spoiler, but for that game. But here we go. There we go. No spoilers. So Gregor, what's up, man? Miko says Hogwarts Legacy had a state of play a year before the game came out too. It's a weird marketing a whole year? Like, who would remember that? I didn't even remember that Hogwarts Legacy had a state of play. See, like, that's just a bad idea. But of course, you know, WB Games would like luck into that game being hyper successful, like super successful anyway. So, you know, it's just gameplay does look bad on Borderlands. You think the gameplay looks bad? I didn't think it looked bad. I thought it looked fine. it didn't look bad, but it just there's some things gunplay wise that I would need to actually play the game in order to really get a feel for. Sometimes when things look really terrible, you can tell from just watching it. But there've been enough times where I've looked at gunplay and said, no, that looks awful. And then there've been times where I looked at gameplay and I said, oh, okay, that was actually pretty decent. And once I played it, that is. Is this a spoiler? God, do I have any footage of this game that's not a spoiler? God, this is not a spoiler, but I think it could end up being a spoiler. So let me go find something else. You know what? We're just gonna do a prologue of that game. There we go. Nothing to show. Miko says, I've never been able to beat a Borderlands game, but the gameplay is always top notch. Is it, I mean, Miko, you just lose interest before you get to the end, or is there a different reason why you never beat one? Gregor says, I need to see social and in-game. True, yeah, the two things that failed, they failed at over and over again. I agree with that. Something, Gregor, I don't know if you watched the stream or not, but something that they brought up was that they instead of having you have to replay the story, the entire campaign over and over again, or to jump into other people's games to try to attain certain loot that is specific to a particular boss, you can now replay missions with the full loot deck. Loot table available to you, as well as replaying bosses over and over again, which I think specifically the boss thing is great. But they discussed loot in general, and so they said the overall Borderlands community felt that legendaries were not legendary in Borderlands 3 because they were too frequent, and they said that they heard that feedback and they were going to make it so that if you saw a legendary, it was definitely a monumentous kind of event. You know, it was definitely a big drop that we celebrated, kind of thing. That kind of made me feel like they may go back to Borderlands 2 loot drop percentages, which were not good. Like, for example, if you wanted the Infinity Pistol, which dropped from like what was that guy? He was like a radio disc jockey in a tower somewhere. Like, you would have to, like, I remember getting a bunch of Infinity Pistols from him, but I would have to kill that guy like 50 times just to get one. If you wanted I'm getting that confused, the Infinity Pistol confused with the B Shield. The B Shield was the one that, like, I had to kill that guy 50 times just to get one shield to drop. The Infinity Pistol had a 1%, less than 1% drop rate for a boss that you couldn't repeat fighting. And so that encouraged people to start gimping gear. And what I mean by that, they were literally creating programs, and they saw the code of the game and saw how the game interpreted text documents of what certain attributes of a gun was, and people started creating their own guns because the drop rates of Borderlands 2 was that unforgiving. Now, this can go one or two ways. This could be option one, they're going back to Borderlands 2 when it comes to that kind of stuff, where the drop rates are terrible, but you can replay every boss, so get grinding, right? Or the drop rates, they could do with option two, where the drop rate is kind of like a mix between, it's like somewhere in between unforgiving with Borderlands 2 and too generous with Borderlands 3. So if you find some way, somehow find a happy medium in the middle, that will be great. Also, what they did is that they have found a way to incorporate what I said before about how people had created programs outside the game to make weapons, and what you would do, you know, to very shortly, you would take your save file, you would upload it to this program. It would then show you your entire backpack, your entire equipped weapons and gear, your inventory and all that stuff. And then you could modify it to your heart's content. Instead of, I'm fairly certain they don't want people doing that. And considering that how games are made now, back then you didn't have a lot of cloud servers, you didn't have server-based matchmaking, everything was peer-to-peer. Now, I'm not certain. I feel like you probably can't do that now. Like you if you tried to do that now, it probably wouldn't work because they got your save file saved in the cloud or whatever. That said, I think what they're trying to implement now is essentially you get a gun, you can modify the attributes of the gun based upon manufacturer, which is how it's always been. And then within the game, you can kind of make your own kind of gun that would really work for you, you know, your build, so on and so forth. I think that is a better way of doing it, and that's something that I'd hope they would have implemented with Borderlands 3. The kind of, because clearly, if you have a ton of people doing this in Borderlands 2, your game may be amazing, but it's got shortcomings, and these are things that people want. And it's good to see them implement that. How far they implement it and where it goes, we'll have to see. But I do think that was a good idea. Lost my train of thought on the last thing I wanted to talk about. I feel like it had to do with skill trees. Two things, actually. Skill trees and additional Vault Hunters. I personally was disappointed that they didn't do additional Vault Hunters in Borderlands 3 like the way they did in Borderlands 2. Instead, they opted to not add additional Vault Hunters, but instead expand on the skill trees, adding additional skill trees to the Vault Hunters that were already there. I didn't like that because there's only so far you can go with versatility of one character. Like, the character is still the archetype that it is. What's up, Soul Tech? What's up, Glacian? FTW in the house. What's up, guys? I would prefer having more Vault Hunters that have other unique archetypes in general with their own 3 skill trees than adding like 2 more skill trees to the 3 that you have on the original 4 Vault Hunters. I'm not a fan of that. I think for post-game content, go back to adding more Vault Hunters, and they have to find a way, because things are different now. And back in the day in Borderlands 2, when it came to in-game content, there was no in-game content. People just kept playing the same game over and over and over again. They did implement like true Vault Hunter mode, you know, like, which is basically just a harder version. It's New Game Plus. And then they did Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, which was just New Game Plus Plus, which is fine. But if you really want to try to recapture the feeling that people had where they ended up, like, me personally, I played Borderlands 2 for like 2 years. Like, the only thing I played for like 2 years back when it came out. It was that engrossing for me. First looter shooter, as they said out there. So, you know, it made sense. But in today, in the year of 2025, that doesn't work. And we saw that with Borderlands 3. They tried the same cadence with the same kind of content, and people dropped off fast because you got games like Destiny that's out there that's consistently dropping like consistent content at the time, all the time. Not saying they didn't do DLC. They definitely did DLC. But the DLC was like shorter experiences made by support studios, and then Gearbox do one big one, and that's it. That's all the content you're getting for the game. And I think what they need to do now is what we see from other games, where you're supporting that content until you drop the next one. So you need to have a development pipeline where you're going to, at least on an annual basis, give people significant amounts of content until you come out with your next game. And if that comes in the form of Vault Hunters and story campaign, okay. If that comes in the form of, say, like modes or you know, like they always have some kind of arena mode, you know, in these games, which is fine. You know, a horde mode thing, which is fine. But like, there needs to be some unique experiences here that you don't get anywhere else in post-game content that will keep people engaged. And I don't know if Gearbox has that, and if this iteration of Gearbox has that in them. I don't know if that's possible. What are you guys saying here? Let's see. Bladex says it looks better than Marathon gameplay. I take back my previous statement. Which is interesting. They moved their date because when Bungie and Sony announced that Marathon was on the same day as Borderlands 4, just a few weeks later, Borderlands moves their date up 2 weeks. And I know some people would say, "Oh, they're afraid of Marathon," and I would say, would you be afraid of Marathon? The reception for Marathon was fairly mixed. I don't think Borderlands, you know, despite the disappointment, still a big established IP. I don't think they're afraid of a new IP from Bungie. But I think it has more to do with the fact that Take-Two owns Gearbox, knows the release date of GTA 6, and was like, we're now more solid on GTA 6 coming out, say maybe like early October. And so we don't want to kill Borderlands by having it come out less than 2 weeks before GTA 6. Let's give it a month of time. Let's give it a month of air to breathe before the bulk of the casual community drops it like a rock and goes to GTA 6, and you're just left with the hardcores that will play Borderlands. Let's see here. Gregor says, I just need a reason to optimize a build, not endlessly doing the same thing for no reason, like Warframe. All Borderlands 3 had was the takedown mission, but once you got the gun, it was basically useless. I see you with that. And for me, I will continue to keep playing a looter shooter as long as there is new builds to make. And if I can come up with ideas to make new builds, I'll keep playing it. I'll use The Division as an example. The Division, what they do is they introduce new gear sets, and new gear sets provide new. So the uniqueness of it is the gear sets, not the characters. So because the character's a blank slate, you know, in a terrible story anyway. But in Borderlands is different because you got unique characters with unique abilities, with certain play styles and skill trees that only three skill trees, but the versatility of those skill trees make it very interesting to come up with different builds. Like I remember creating a build for Krieg the Psycho where I basically would just take damage and then I would be wiping enemies out due to my shield being eliminated. Like they take my shield out and then I'm just doing waves of damage on all the enemies around me. You know, like that's a very unique kind of build to come up with, but you have to allow the player to kind of like, you gotta have enough content in there to allow the player to create things like that. I had a thought and then it left me. I'm getting old. Okay. So here's the thing that is typical of Borderlands. They make so many unique weapons, and so many of them, with so many unique shields, mods, and so forth, that they naturally create items that they never tested all together before. And then players would test them all together and create completely broken builds. What I need them to do is not completely nerf that stuff into the ground every time they see it. I think they need to instead of nerfing those things, do the thing that it seems every developer tends to not do, which is introduce other unique things that make other kinds of builds more fun to play. For example, back in Borderlands 2, they had this gun, the shotgun called the conference call. And in the base Borderlands game, the conference call was the most OP weapon in the game. You could get it at like level 11 and clear the entire base campaign. You couldn't do that in True Vault Hunter mode or Ultimate Vault Hunter mode. But in the base campaign, clear the whole thing, right? It got even better. I would say you couldn't clear the whole thing just with the gun alone. You needed that with the combination of the B shield. And the way the B shield worked is that if you didn't take any damage and the shield was at full blast, it would have this I forgot how they call it, like amplify. Was it amplify? It had a particular ability that would, like, per bullet amp up the damage you did. And by the nature of the conference call, it would shoot these pellets. It was like they would teleport these pellets out of the shotgun that would like take up like a third of the entire screen from corner to corner. And it in the B shield would amplify each pellet that would come out. So just imagine if you didn't play it and you didn't have it, imagine how much damage you would do. You would literally have low level versions of those particular two items and you could beat the whole game. You could beat the end boss with like before even reloading your gun. It was that OP. Now I understand why they nerfed it, but I think today with the way content is, you need to get a bit better and making sure that's not a bit like something that OP isn't available at launch. So you need to get a little bit better in theory crafting on their own. Maybe they need to hire, some of these content creators out here that make this stuff so that they can make some things and then make it appropriate levels before, doing that. But if it's out there, I think that you're better off not like everything should be in moderation. Don't nerf it into the ground. Just kind of balance it so it's not so completely broken. And these are things that they've struggled to balance things correctly with. And I think they from what I saw, they have something here that could work. The open world nature, I can already see some people writing it off just based off of that. They don't like open world. They don't want Borderlands being any different than what it's always been. But you got to keep to the roots of what a series is while also making advancements that keep it modern for the modern gamer. And I think that's something that that's a balancing act they're going to have to figure out, hopefully. Gregor says in Borderlands 3, Flack had really only one way to play him till way later when they added stuff. Exactly, right. Which, he's my least used character in Borderlands 3 because I got bored with his playstyle very quickly. I said nothing in Borderlands 3 DLC was worth farming for either. True. So once you beat the story, you didn't even go back there. Very true. Very true. Miko says Borderlands 3 sold 18 million. They'll be fine. People shit on it, but it's got a huge fan. Oh yeah. Especially in this community, people have no idea how big the Borderlands community is. Like I see people dismiss it all the time. Like I was watching, and this is no shade to any of those people. I was watching a particular marathon stream where they were, after the marathon came out, it was a few content creators. It was like 4 of them. 2 of them had actually played it. When it was like pre-alpha, and so they had a personal experience with it already. But all these guys are like real big Destiny guys, and they were just about it being released on the same day as Borderlands 4, they were just dismissive of Borderlands 4. It was like, that's no big deal. It's just Borderlands. And it's just like, that game has sold more copies than Destiny. Like, just think about that for like the franchise itself has definitely sold more copies than Destiny 1 and 2. But in particular, that game, you know, despite it being a disappointment, was still really well. And then the subsequent Borderlands games afterward, like Tiny Tina Wonderlands, were sold even less, but still did more in sales than you would get from basically any game. Like most games, if they got the sales that Tiny Tina Wonderlands got, they'd be happy with that. Actually, I'm gonna just double check what that was. How much did Tiny Tina Wonderlands sell? Oh wow, they did. They did not. I'm sorry. I asked the AI this, and I'm getting. It's so okay. So it would say it's so less. It's so less than Borderlands 3 for certain, and that is inconclusive. Because it looks like they never disclosed those numbers, which not as good as definitely not as good as Borderlands 3. Let's see here. Gregor says the loot was too generous and Takedown 2. I actually got the words and syllables redistributor SMG to drop with every element on one run. Damn. I probably did too as well. I remember getting that gun multiple times. And that's crazy because like in Borderlands 2, you would need to farm particular content to get multiple versions of one gun. He said, Miko says the one-shot sniper builds in Division 2 were OP. I enjoyed mine. You know, I know there were different variations of one-shot sniper builds, but I don't have a problem with that in Division 2, considering that so many people labeled the game as bullet spongy. So it's like, so what is it? Is it bullet spongy, or is being able to drop an enemy with one bullet too much? You know, like you got to have that variety. And, you know, the reason why I stopped playing Division 2 is I just got bored, because I made all the builds that I wanted to make, and some of the other gear sets they were coming out with did not interest me at all. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm good to go, man. I don't want to play this any further, because you know, you just keep redoing different manhunts, the same manhunt game design with different characters with terrible story, and the builds aren't fun. So there's just no fun in playing the game. So, like, you know, hopefully they rectify that with Battle for Brooklyn next month, but we'll see. But the conference call was in 3 as well. But I would say, to their credit, the conference call in 3 was nowhere near as OP as it was in 2, and it was kind of appropriately balanced. Borderlands selling so much is why the lack of social aspects in the game is the standards of modern live service. The lack of social, what do you mean by that? The lack of social aspects in the game to the stand, because like you had VoIP in Borderlands. You could talk to people. But I mean, the way it was designed, you would get into like matches. Like they didn't actually like make it any better in Borderlands 3, which is part of the, you know, criticisms of them not innovating enough. But yeah, it's just you know, I think they have a lot to kind of make up for, but the Borderlands community is loyal. So they will they will definitely buy I'm going to buy the game. Forte is going to buy the game. You know, we're going to play the heck out of it, you know, so it is what it is. Bladek says the person at Bungie pushing the Marathon IP should be let go. Pushing the Marathon IP. Well, they've had multiple creative directors for Marathon alone. So I would say the current person in place right now is just trying to get the game in the state where it's the investment in it is going to be worth it. You know? So we will see what happens. Like I haven't played Marathon, and I've seen some of the reactions to some people that I trust their opinions on things. There's been mixed. There's been some that enjoy it, and there's been some that felt they were bored. It's an extraction shooter, so that's an acquired taste in itself. But I want to play it for myself. Unfortunately, I did not get into I hate the way they did the closed alpha. Just having it go through Discord was not the best idea, but I might have it in with a particular someone that maybe give me some codes for the beta when they do the beta. So I'll have some firsthand impressions of it soon. Gregor says Borderlands' idea of social is going into a menu and queue for matchmaking. The end. Yeah, and that's the aspect of Borderlands that I was talking about needs to be improved. Just queuing, yeah, like just going in, and I think if I recall correctly, the way they used to do it is like if you were level 38, they would just show you other people at level 38, and I would say somewhat that was broken in Borderlands 3 and 2. I mean, you know, game is more popular than 3. But 2, even if they were both fairly popular, but I feel like it was broken because when 3 came out, they didn't have crossplay enabled. And so you had to play with the people that were already on the platform or the launcher for PC of your choice. On PC, they made a deal with Epic to go exclusive Epic Game Store. And so, you know, a large portion of the PC community boycotted the game and chose not to buy into a game of Steam. And then you have, I just recall whether I played it on Xbox, on PlayStation, or on PC through Epic Game Store. Whenever I tried to queue up to play with other people, I would never find as many people as I did with Borderlands 2. Like, I would just hit the button and Borderlands 2 would be like a bunch of people. I could just jump in their game. They could just jump in my game if I had it open for public, and it'll be fine. Which I think a version of that should still exist for Borderlands 4, but they need to have better care on how they implement that. And if you're trying to queue up, like just do this. If you are trying to run a specific mission, have it the ability to queue up people who are also looking for that specific mission. End of story. Do that, and I think you'll be good. Even to the degree of people who want to replay certain bosses, only have it for people who've already beat the boss to kind of, you know, gate it so you don't have so many people basically just trying to get over. You know, like, oh, I can't beat this boss on my own. I mean, if you feel like you can't beat a raid boss, like say, for example, Terramorphous or whatever, right? Like, you couldn't beat Terramorphous in Borderlands 2 was like the worst raid boss. If you couldn't beat him, you were bummed. But still, if you could beat Terramorphous, you could go jump with other people to do that. But there needs to be a different kind of queue for people who are just trying to farm it, and they already beat it. Like, there has to be ways to kind of differentiate that, I think. Let me get up out of here because I gotta cook dinner for these kids. But FCW says, have a good one, people. Going to get back into clear. Expedition 33 is my game of the year. Yeah, it's my game of the year. I'm in Act 3. I'm at the end of the game, but I'm not going to beat the game yet, even though it's got a new game plus. I'm going to go exploring through the world. I'm going to get I want to get stronger. I think all my characters are around between levels 40 and 45. I want to be up at like levels 50, 60, and I'm looking forward to it because the combat is that damn fun. So yeah, play Expedition 33 if you haven't yet. This prologue you're seeing, very emotional, very well acted and well directed prologue is just really setting the tone for the kind of game it is. It's fantastic. Gregor says they should do more with dueling too. I always felt dueling was very janky, not in how it performed, but its design. You know, just because they created it to try to deal with people. So in Borderlands 1, you would have these this happened to me before too. So, but you would matchmake with people, and then people would be like, "Yo, that's a great gun. Can I have that gun?" Because they had a copying process. So the way you would dupe weapons is you would go away from like the respawn stations, which were also checkpoints. You would go into like the parts of the map that didn't have any of those nearby. And the last time you were near one, the game would record what your entire inventory was. Your equipped weapons, your backpack, all that stuff. And then what you would do is that you would literally drop everything on you, all your everything. You would drop it all out, and then you would go to home and completely end your game. You wouldn't hit quit because then it will save what your character had on you when you quit. You would just end the game. And so because potentially a game could crash, and they would just make sure that whatever you had at the last checkpoint is what you got when you loaded back into the game. And so that way you could duplicate weapons. So if you got the Infinity Pistol, for example, and your boy's like, yo, let me get that. You would go, like me and my friends, we would have certain areas in Borderlands 2 where we would kind of sit there, you know, like we'd go to a certain area. I would drop all my stuff down, and then I would go to home and end the game. Not quit the game, but end it at home of the UI of my Xbox 360. And then I would come back in and they'd be picking through my stuff, and I would have all my same stuff back. That's how that worked. And people used to do in Borderlands 1, people used to cheat people. They used to say, drop that down for me. I'll pick it up. I'll make a copy for you. Or I will trade you this other gun I got that I was using during that mission. You know, if you drop another gun down, and then someone would drop the gun down, and then they would pick up their gun, and then they would quit. They would just steal their gun. So, I think some of the things they're doing now are allowing you to modify your weapons to your heart's content and to get really deep and min-max your weapons, your gear, your character. That minutia will just basically end the need for doing those kind of things in general, for the most part. Yeah, I think people might still want to do duping, but who knows? I'm gonna get out of here though. Appreciate you guys for coming through. Very impromptu. I literally like 4:50. I saw the notification that they were doing that today, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot. Damn!" And so I just kind of threw this stream together. But appreciate. I didn't have a thumbnail. I'll make a good thumbnail for this later on. But appreciate you guys for coming through. If you haven't subbed to the channel yet, please do so. Tomorrow we got Damage Per Second podcast. It's going to be a good time with the homie Gaming Forte. Maybe we'll have a guest. We'll see what happens. But hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Play Expedition 33. And I'm out, man. Peace.